coworker is an intelligent customer success partner.
Welcome to AI and the Future of Revenue Retention podcast, where we explore how AI is transforming customer success and revenue growth. I'm Susil, founder of Coworker. We work with revenue and customer success leaders to improve revenue retention using AI. Let's get started. Today, I'm joined by Aaron Thompson. He has been a customer success leader for nearly 15 years. Since founding his company, Red Slacks, in 2017, he has built a reputation for turning onboarding, retention, and expansion into real revenue growth for his clients. Aaron is consistently challenging team to stop treating customer success as support function and start running it like a growth engine. Hey, Aaron, welcome to our podcast.
Thank you, Sushil. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for the opportunity to hang out with you today.
Awesome. Great, great. Generally, I start off with my guests, tell me about you.
Tell you about me. Oh man, we could spend the whole time just talking about that if you want. Yeah, let's see. So my first job was at about 15 years old after being a paperboy. And I worked at a health club, like a athletic club, at the front desk, checking people into the club and helping them with whatever they needed. And then I went through college and I was in customer service, taking phone calls at health insurance companies. And then I found my way into support and technical account management. And then about 2015, I found customer success. I was hired on as the head of customer success to fix the churn problem at a little SaaS company here in Portland, Oregon, where I'm based. I had about 20 years of support and service background, but nothing in CS specifically at that point. And so on the first day as the head of customer success, tasked with fixing that churn problem, I went to Google and typed in, what is customer success? Now that I'm the head of this thing, I should probably figure it out. And lo and behold, I found the industry and the technology players and the conferences and then community, and I studied it and I dove in head first. And in about 12 months, I took a 40% year over year churn rate down to about 8% at this SaaS company. And at that point, I thought, wow, this really works. And so I founded Red Slacks after that and have been working with organizations to prevent that problem, ideally, in the first place, or fix that problem if they find themselves in that same predicament. So just about 10 years or so in this customer success space, getting to work with everything from large enterprise B2B to startups and everything in between.
Awesome. That's a great story, right from beginning to where you are today. That's awesome. So when you advise your customer, what kind of revenue retention framework, if you say, playbook, framework, whatever you want to call it, what is it that you advise? What's your kind of framework in a way for revenue retention?
Sure, yeah. So the first thing I think that is important for organizations to realize is the revenue retention is a cross-departmental initiative. It's not something that you can fix at the bottom of the funnel, back of the house, post-sale. The customer journey starts way before that. Expectations start getting set, different misunderstanding, maybe, possibly misaligned expectations start getting set, all the way up in marketing, where we're making promises and kind of selling the vision, to sales, where we're trying to figure out what we're going to fix and what we can offer in terms of value, et cetera. And then we can get into onboarding and engagement, adoption, expansion, customer advocacy plays, et cetera. So when I came on at that B2B SaaS company that I was talking about a moment ago, the first thing that I required before I took on that endeavor to fix the churn problem was that I had access to marketing and sales and product roadmap. I needed to be at the leadership level so that we could work collaboratively to make sure that it's unified across the entire customer journey. And so my take on retention or churn, right? Same, two sides of the same coin, is exactly that we need to work collaboratively across the organization to make sure that what we're marketing is actually what it does, not just what it is. A lot of times we'll market features and functions and bells and whistles, and then we're selling those same kinds of things. And then in customer success, we get into success planning and we look at what do you want to actually solve? And a lot of times the customer may not have even thought of it that way. It's I want to make more money, or I want to save some time, or whatever the value proposition is. But really getting good at honing in on what our products and services do more so than what they are per se. Like, what are the things we're solving? And so that's the first kind of stage of the framework, is to figure that out and refine what that ideal customer profile looks like when we think of it that way. And then the second piece is to look at the customer landscape and put some segmentation in place. As much as we like to pretend that all customers are created equal, we certainly know that they're not. Even if we don't externally advertise that we've got a hierarchy from 1 to 1,000, we need to internally, operationally understand what that looks like, from our most strategic tier 1 to our kind of middle ground to maybe our least strategic, or tech touch is kind of the term that was used 10 years ago. And that's where digital CS and a lot of products like Coworker can come into play, and really assist with how to manage that at scale, because you end up with a whole lot of the long tail customers, if you will. And so that was the second thing that I did, is I came in and I put in a segmentation strategy, and then I actually had programs. And so for the top 20% in terms of revenue, those customers got a certain service level agreement, initial response time, dedicated CSM, et cetera. And then we had 60% in the middle. And then we had 20% that were at the bottom that, frankly, I said, you can no longer call us. You have to email support at. And because when they called us, and this company, the contracts were so small that the second we answered the phone, we had lost money on that customer just based on the time it took. And so some of them said, forget you, I'm leaving. And I was okay with that, cutting off that long tail. I wasn't going to fire any customers, but we had to be operationally efficient and intelligent with our service model. And a lot of them paid to move up. Here's what you'll get. Here's what it'll cost to move up, and then to move up again. And so that's kind of the second stage, is putting that intelligent service model in place. And then it's about operationalizing it and really getting into playbooks. What can we automate? What should be done manually? What should we be signaling on? Creating health scores. Back then, it was really about product telemetry and usage data. Now we have so many other ways to gauge customer health around sentiment of what they're saying on Zoom recordings and gong calls and support tickets and direct emails to the CSM, et cetera. And luckily, in this world of AI, now we have the ability to monitor at a scale that we never could before. And then from the signals that the AI finds, we can operate whatever those plays and playbooks look like, whether it be manual or automated. So those are kind of the three sort of pillars that, as a tip of the spear, is a way to get started.
Sure. So it intrigued me, the first one you said, that, it's a basically unified effort between the marketing, the excuse me, support, CSM, product, everybody. How open, when you advise this to your customer, how open are they to kind of, number one, listen to that? Number two, actually empower you or support you to implement that?
Yeah, that's all across the board. A lot of companies, almost every company, says they want to be customer centric. And so then they might hire a consultant like myself to come in. And first step I do is analyzing kind of what the operations look like today. What are we doing? Doing an assessment essentially of how we're managing our customers. And then out of that, I've got typically things that need to change. And some organizations are on board with that. Ideally, if I'm brought in from like a CEO level or the board, they're going to be very, top down. You get a lot of movement. But if it's a CS leader who's kind of middle manager, it can be really difficult to show the executive leadership team why this is so important, especially if it's an older company. If it's a company that was born before SaaS and it had the more on-premise kind of transactional relationship as opposed to the repeatable revenue model that we have in SaaS, that can be a real heavy lift to get them to change. Because if I'm a salesperson, I've been selling this way for 20 years. Why should I start talking about anything different, right? And so it really depends on the maturity of the company, when it was created. When they make the move from on-prem to cloud-based computing, that can add complexity in that regard, as opposed to if they're born in the cloud and they've always been a repeatable revenue model, they're typically a little more open to that change. But That's what it comes down to. Organizational change management, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
we have to show them why should they? What's in it for them? Why should marketing allow us in to figure out, are we really hitting the right target in terms of ICP? Because when we live in customer success in the post-sale world, we know the good fit, stretch fit, bad fit customers because we deal with it every day. Marketing has their own idea of ICP. Do those two actually match up? Is it really reality of who we're targeting? And if not, we need to be able to surface that up and help them get more efficient with who they go after. And then same thing with sales. Like, why should they sell in more of an outcome aligned perspective as opposed to look at how cool these drop downs are and I'm going to show you this amazing UI, etc.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think most of the time it's not the lack of knowledge. And I've been in organization transformation kind of a consulting role for 10 years plus, and always is a change manager. It's not that there's a lack of knowledge. It's there's a knowledge is there, the plan is there, but hey, ultimately it boils down to people, right? So,
Changes are, yeah, changes are. And there's a million different
yeah,
change management frameworks
yeah,
out there. And,
yeah.
there's a reason that's an entire industry on its own.
Absolutely, 100%. Anyways, so moving on. So when you advise your customer, well, when you work with your customers or client, I mean, basically, where do you find they are today? Not where they should go, but where they are today in terms of knowing, hey, which customer is about to churn or where is the opportunity for expansion, right? So basically, if you really look at revenue retention, the churn and the expansion, right? Where do you see typically they are? How do they know these signals?
Yeah, a lot of them, the reason they bring someone like myself in is because they're being too reactive. They don't know until it's too late. They're either missing expansion, so their NRR number isn't where they want it to be, which B2B SaaS, that's typically like 110 to 120% NRR. Or the GRR, the gross revenue retention, isn't at that 90 plus percent. Again, B2B SaaS specific kind of industry norms there. And so a lot of organizations, they don't know. And that's when they bring somebody in to fix the churn problem. And we go through that whole thing. Other organizations will build their motion, their practice as part of their go to market, whether it's product led growth or customer led growth or sales led growth. At the end of the day, we've got to figure out how can we ensure that the customer is getting what they want from the products and services, from their revenue and capital that they've invested, certainly, but more importantly, their time. And I think that's where another area where a lot of vendors kind of undervalue the friction it adds to the customer is with time. We think they want to talk to us. Like, why wouldn't they want to talk to us to make sure they're getting what they want from their investment? Well, you're a tiny little slice of their entire pie. They might be a big deal in your world, but you're a small deal in theirs. And so we have to really be self-aware and self-conscious about that, and do as much asynchronously as possible. And so where the organizations are, it's all across the board, right? In terms of whether they're being proactive or reactive. But a lot of times that's what they come to me for is I want my team to be proactive. They're doing too much reactive firefighting. Well, then the question is what's happening to cause that? Because you can't just say, go be proactive. If I've got 25 customers putting in tickets every day, and I've got all this inbound activity that I am responsible to respond to, I don't have bandwidth to do the proactive, more strategic motions. And again, that's where now here in 2026, we've got opportunities that we never had in terms of using AI and technology to manage and monitor that inbound so that we can hopefully spend less time data wrangling and trying to figure out kind of health scores and red, yellow, greens and all this stuff, and more time speaking with our executive stakeholders, delivering value, demonstrating value. I have this framework called the 3Ds: define, deliver, and demonstrate success or value for your customer. A lot of companies define it pretty well and they even deliver it pretty well. What they don't do is demonstrate it really
Yeah.
well. And there's a lot of like direct to consumer products where we could, in the B2B world, learn a lot. The one that I often use as an example is the Spotify Wrapped campaigns at the end of the year. It shows you all the music you listen to and different times a day and different genres and all that. All that is an annual business review showing me the value, because I would never have guessed I listen to Spotify as much as I do.
Yeah.
And I certainly didn't know I was in the top 1% of all worldwide listeners of the band The Killers. But when I found that out, I thought that was cool because I love The Killers. So it makes sense. That's why I played it so much in the last year. And so then I become an advocate, right? I go post that on social media or something. And so that motion at Spotify is a really good example of a way that B2B, we always think it has to be this hour to 90-minute QBR every 90 days to tell you how great we are. We don't need to do that. We just got to get creative, but we do need to demonstrate the value we've been delivering. But how we do that is there's a million different ways we can come up with to solve that. Again, AI products and technology today allow that to be done even easier. There's products that allow you to do like a one-click QBR preparation so that you can do all that value demonstration better. But that's where churn and renewal really kind of come down to it. It's one of those 3Ds. If we lost a customer, we either never defined what they wanted to achieve, we never delivered it, or we never demonstrated it. It's always one of those three, because if you do all three of those, I will renew, just like I do every year with Spotify, because I have no shadow of a doubt the value that I get for my, whatever it is, $12 a month or something now.
Yeah. So I think in a way you're saying is the true signal is if you cannot demonstrate the value, that's the true signal that either they're going to churn or expand, right? I mean, you could get the gajillion of other signals, but the true signal is the can you easily demonstrate the value? Is that
Yeah, and not even just demonstrate it, but also have them confirm that they agree.
you
I
agree?
call it value affirmation. We need
Mhm.
them to affirm that, yes, I saved this much time or money or whatever that value proposition was.
Right.
And a lot of organizations struggle with that. And it's not easy to do, but it's certainly not impossible.
Right.
But I think to your point, that's really like if you picked one signal, it would be, did we get value affirmation or not?
Mhm.
And the other thing to keep in mind is onboarding, the critical nature of the onboarding stage. You can't secure a renewal at onboarding, but you can secure a churn. We've all signed up for a product and thought, am I their first customer? Like, why is this so crazy and unorganized? I don't know what to do, and I don't know how to use the product, etc. And then we've also signed up for products where it's like, here's exactly what it's going to take to get you live. Here's who I'll need at what point. And it's all prescriptive and well defined. Onboarding is mission critical for driving retention numbers up. Until you have onboarding frictionless, essentially, that's really where I would advise anybody to focus if they want to try to affect their retention number, is make sure that until you have onboarding dialed in, the rest of it almost doesn't matter. Because if those early impressions, if those are friction filled or some kind of confusing for me as a customer, I'm already thinking, is it worth spending time? I might have spent the money already, but is it worth me still investing more time in this company?
Yeah, yeah. And I think from proactive versus reactive kind of thinking, the value realization basically demonstration is kind of lagging indicator in a way, right? I
100%.
mean, so basically for us to be proactive, probably we cannot wait till there, right? But you
Mhm.
mentioned the onboarding, which is kind of proactive way of engaging them, be proactive on the renewal. Is there any other strategies that you think that are more proactive so that it will be easier for us to demonstrate and reconfirm the value?
Yeah. I sent you that post, and if you have
Yeah.
your listeners that would like it, reach out to me. I'll send you this post. But the whole concept was that proactive customer success is a lie. It's actually impossible to see the future. We don't have a crystal ball. What we really want to do is be reactive very quickly. We want to change. We want to limit the space or time between signal and action. The quicker we can take action on an accurate, effective signal of either churn and risk or growth and opportunity. Like, it's not all doom and gloom. There's positive stuff we want to act on too. But limiting as much as possible of that time between the two is what starts to feel like proactivity. But you're absolutely right. Retention and renewal and churn are all lagging indicators. For a while, we thought things like net promoter scores and customer surveys were proactive, but they're really not. They're really a snapshot in time.
Yeah.
Right? And it might be accurate today, but tomorrow it might be completely inaccurate depending on what happens to me as your customer between today and tomorrow. And you've got different stages that come into play and what products and SKUs and stuff. It's an important thing in terms of voice of the customer, but in itself, it's not like the end all be all.
Yeah.
Where we're able to now uncover is through the communication data, the non-structured, non-telemetry data, and being able to use AI products to monitor and manage that so that it'll surface up things that the humans should be aware of. Again, churn prevention and risk, but also growth opportunities too.
Yeah. No, that's I really like what you're saying, the gap between the signal to the action, right? And even you can think of it like a simple your support questions, right? If they have support queries, right? Basically, every interaction, if you can kind of close the gap between what they need versus what we give them, I think that's the best proact. That is kind of in itself is as a proactive measure. So that's
and another one that comes to mind is partnering with marketing to figure out who is on our current customers. I'm not talking net new prospects, but current customers, who is on our email list and who is not. That shows me something about their level of health. Who opens the emails and who does not. Who clicks the call to action, whether it's to sign up for the webinar or whatever the thing is that we're telling them about, and who does not. And using that data, marketing's really good with that data. They've been doing that for prospects forever. And using that same strategy and methodology, but to our in-house or in-base customer set, can also be one of the proactive measures that we can use. That's another sort of collaborative, cross-departmental motion that a lot of companies they don't take advantage of that. You've got this marketing team with this unique skill set, but they're not using it, and we're not helping them use it for our current customers as just another insight, right? It's the crumbs make the cake, as I like to say, and no one thing is going to be the end all be all. But when you get enough insights in different types of data, you can start to be, I dare I say, predictive, but you can be much quicker with your reactive and even maybe a little proactive, truly, if you've got a broad enough, like well enough painted picture.
Yeah, no, that's great. I think that you brought up, generally when we look at marketing, we always think about new customer, new lead generation, right? So, but here we're talking about, hey, the same thing, what you're doing with the new customer, you're doing existing customer to engage them, right? And then you can find out some of those engagement metrics and see if they're really engaged or not. Great.
As well as generate advocates, right? Figure out which ones want to be public speakers for you, would want to be on stage if you have a user conference. Like, how can you help them be thought leaders in their own regard and literally help make their life better? Then they can go out and bring net new leads in for you because you've created a platform effectively. All of those are really customer marketing motions. And I think a lot of customer success teams just don't connect the dots back to all of the capabilities they have in marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that insights. Moving on, today, when you actually work with your customer, work with the clients, where do you see the most friction between the signal to action, or sometimes getting signal itself is a friction, right? So where is this manual work that's going in, and a lot of challenges they have to really be close that gap in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. To your point, if you can't even get the signal in the first place, that's going to be the first challenge. And that is the case a lot of times with on-premise technologies that still exist today. If there's, if it's not a typical kind of B2B SaaS, like digital marketing agencies is a good example. They
Mhm.
don't have product telemetry data. They can't really tell like,
Yeah.
is the usage going up and down and how are they engaging with the product, et cetera. It's really about what are the customers telling them. And most companies have plenty of that data. It's not a matter of getting the signals. It's a
Mhm.
matter of finding the signals in the noise. And that's where the biggest friction point becomes is with all these emails from all these customers and all these support tickets from support to services to success to sales and whoever else might be engaging with the customers on a weekly, monthly basis. How do you figure out what matters in those conversations? How can you block out the noise and find the appropriate signals to take action upon? And that's where the trick becomes, right? And that's again going back to just this world of AI that we live in now. There's a lot of different products that help with that,
Right.
but you can't do it manually. If I'm a startup, I probably can, right? I mean, like or my solo entrepreneur business. I can
Mhm.
do that because I'm engaging with every customer, every client.
Right.
Like I know what's going on. But as you grow and scale, tooling becomes critical because you just can't throw enough people at that problem to be able to harvest valuable signals out of all of the data that is all of the conversations and communications and emails and chat object and whatever, all the different channels. And so that's the biggest challenge that I help organizations or I see organizations have is how to fix that problem. How can we figure out what's in all this
Yeah.
gobbledygook to
Sure.
actually have meaningful insights that we can then do things with? Again, whether it's risk or opportunity.
Okay. Um, how from the CSM perspective, like as an individual contributor, what have you seen that they are struggling with?
It all depends on the maturation of the organization.
Mm.
Right now, I think CSMs are struggling to figure out how to do more with less, right?
Mm.
Or CS
Mm.
leaders are
Mhm.
especially, right? Their hiring is flat or even reductions in force. Yet they want to continue to grow their books of business and hit
Mhm.
those 90% GRR and
Mhm.
110% NRR numbers. And so how do you do that? And that's where tooling has to come into play.
Yeah.
You can't just keep throwing more stuff on people's plates and expect it to work.
Yeah.
And so as we either ramp down or keep hiring stagnant, we want to start ramping up tools like Coworker and other AI products that can help augment the CSM. And I
Mm.
actually had a post on LinkedIn today that said AI is not going to replace CSMs. CSMs who use AI are going to replace CSMs.
Yeah.
And that's what we're moving to, right? And someone mentioned last week to me, and I thought this was a really great way to put it. AI is the new literacy.
Mhm.
No matter what organization, whether you're in sales, marketing, an entrepreneur, if you're a student, even my son,
Yeah. Yeah.
15 years old, I'm telling him how he's got to learn how to
Yeah.
use these tools because it's going to be the future. It's not going away.
Yeah.
But to think of it as its own literacy, I think is
Mhm.
a really good
Yeah.
kind of mindset, right? Like we need
Yeah.
to be AI literate
Yeah.
as we move into the future. And the people who get out ahead of that are going to have an advantage in the next
Yeah.
short term and probably even over the long term, as opposed to people who are either slow adopters or laggards in that maturation process.
Mhm.
But that's kind of where we're at today in terms of what are CSMs like dealing with and worried about. It's how do I use AI? How can I
Mhm.
use AI effectively? And it's so funny. Like leaders will say, go start using AI. Here's your chat GPT login, right? But they don't do any training, no instruction around
Mhm.
how to use it.
Right.
And frankly, they don't start with a problem to solve. Like,
Mhm.
why are we going to use AI?
Right.
What is the challenge or problem that we're going to solve? Then we can back into what kinds of AI we should explore and when we could use it across the different life cycle stages of the customer. There's all sorts of things. I've got a course, AI powered customer success, that's on Red Slacks that takes the three types of AI, applied, agentic, and generative, and overlays it to the four main life cycle stages, onboarding, adoption, expansion, and renewal. and
Mm.
how would you use each of those three across those four stages. And it's just a baseline to get people to start thinking about it this way, more strategically, as opposed to just pulling up ChatGPT and using it like a toy instead of a tool. And that's
Yeah.
kind of where we're at in terms of AI maturity. It reminds me, I'm old enough, this will age me, Sushil. It
Mm.
reminds me of the cloud in 2002.
Yeah.
You know, I was in healthcare technology back then, and everybody was like, we'll never go to the cloud, HIPAA and our data privacy and all this stuff. But they didn't really even know what the cloud was. Everybody's just like, put it in the cloud, use the cloud, the cloud, the cloud, the cloud. Is there one cloud? Are there a million clouds? Do I have a cloud? Do you have a cloud? What is the cloud, right? Like, nobody really knew. We were figuring it out back then. That's kind of where we're at with AI.
Yeah. Yeah.
People
No,
just
I
think
agree.
it's just AI. Like there's like just one kind of AI, or it's whatever they know of AI. And then
Yeah.
they oftentimes use it like Google or something, right? Answer questions for me, as opposed to really harnessing the power of the different kinds and
Yeah.
the agentic capabilities now, et cetera. So like I think as time goes on, we're gonna get smarter and use it better and better. But the people who start to figure that out sooner are certainly going to have the advantage, both at leadership and then down to the individual contributors of customer success managers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I think I take away a few things from there. One for sure, how why you are doing this, right? As you said, like, it's not just the like, just use it. That's not what we're doing, right? What are the problem that we are trying to solve, right? I think that's critical. And another, you said, that's a very good point. Now, AI is almost like you should know how to use computer. Similarly, you should know how to use this AI in your benefit, right?
Yeah.
So, the world is changing so fast, and it's very interesting time, say for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the unique time here with AI is just
Yeah.
what's available changes so quickly compared to like the cloud in '02 or personal computing back in the
Mhm.
late '80s, early '90s,
Right.
right? When you got like I remember my dad was the CEO for 25 years of a cherry co-op, and he was a late adopter of computers because he thought until it's faster for me to use a computer than just work with my executive assistant to get stuff done, I'm
Mm,
not going to do it. And I
mm,
think that's where a lot of people are maybe
mm.
like have been. But back then, like a computer was kind of a computer. It didn't really
Right.
change all that much over,
Right.
literally week to week. The
Yeah.
cloud was kind of the cloud. Blockchain was kind of the blockchain. It sort of is
Mm.
what it is. AI is constantly evolving in
Yeah.
terms of what's out there,
Yeah.
and it's just changing so much faster than any of these other
Yeah.
stages
Yeah.
ever did.
And more it's becoming easier to use also, right? It's like
Hmm.
assistant, right? So it's being easier to use as well. Great. um Anything to add? And I looked at your training. I think that looks great. I think that is a very good foundation course for any customer success, so that's really great.
Thank you. I
um,
appreciate that.
Anything to add on AI? I know we talk AI on all the angles. Anything you want to add on AI, how AI can reshape this CS world?
Well, I think it's gonna. I mean, it's happening already. That's
Yeah.
kind of the thing, right? And so, in terms of like final thoughts around it, I would go back to the thought that AI is not replacing CSMs. The future of customer success or account management, I'll just generalize it into customer relationship management. We'll just like go back to CRM verbiage. The future of all of that is going to be augmented humans. AI is really good at doing things at scale that we cannot. It is really good at monitoring multi-channel, which we cannot. There's problems and challenges that we can solve with AI that we can't solve with humans. That should then free the humans up to do the human things. And in the world of customer success, that is going back to the 3Ds, making sure we've clearly defined what success is to you as my executive stakeholder, your middle line managers, and all of your individual contributors. You've all got different things you want from your engagement with me. And then I got to deliver on those three. And then I got to demonstrate that I've done so and have those strategic outcome um, aligned conversations That's what AI does not do really well today, is getting that human element. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, B2B SaaS, especially even in sales, right? Like B2B SaaS, if it's a big enough contract, people are going to always buy from people, and people are going to always have relationships with people. Let's use AI and the technology out there today and in the future to augment those mundane tasks
Yeah.
so that we can do the more strategic, high level, human first activities, I'll call them.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. No, that was a very insightful discussion today. Anything you want to add as your final departing thoughts before we close our podcast?
Yeah, no, any of the audience that would like to reach out, I'm at redslacks.com. I'd love to talk to anybody about how they're using AI today and what the opportunities for AI moving forward for customer success, account managers, you name it, anything kind of post-sale. I also love to do training and education for classes and teams. So if there's any leaders out there that want to set a baseline for their team to understand AI, I'd love to chat with them as well. So a shameless plug, Sushil.
Awesome. No worries. Thank you. No, thank you, Aaron, for your time. Really appreciate it. It was really joyful talk.
Thank you for having me on.
Thanks. Bye.
Feel free to contact us if you want to learn more about how AI can help customer success.